27, 2026. Township Education Working Session is called to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is O'Day Markup, roll call, please.
Absolutely. Brandon Bowman,
Present.
Susan Gray, present. Karen Burke, present. Michael Gordon,
Here.
Amika Graham, present. Ben Wakefield,
I'm present.
and I'm Sherry O'Day Martin. We are all present.
Board, we've all been provided a copy of the agenda for tonight's meeting. We have a motion to adopt the agenda presented.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda presented.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Thank you, board. Public comments at school board meetings are reserved for individuals who maintain legal settlement within the MSD of Wayne Township boundaries, or a legal guardian of an enrolled student, or actively employed by the MSD of Wayne Township, or own a business within the MSD of Wayne Township boundaries, and are reserved to a 2-minute allotment to allow for an efficient meeting. Persons wishing to address the board on a scheduled public agenda item shall sign in at the start of the meeting and present a driver's license or similar ID showing they reside within the MSD of Wayne Township, or be verified as a guardian in the district's student management system, or present their valid employment identification badge. Business owners who wish to provide public comment must contact the superintendent in advance of the school board meeting, provide verification of ownership and location. Requests for public comments will be scheduled by the order in which they are received on the sign-in sheet. At his or her sole discretion, board president may permit public comment on issues not listed as public agenda items. Public comments will be accepted for up to a maximum of 60 minutes, and all other comments after the allotted time may be submitted in writing for the superintendent for review. We'll move into public comment. First on our list this evening, Alyssa Purdy Allen.
Good evening, President Bowman, Vice President Graves, members of the school board, Superintendent Dr. Scott, members of our Wayne Township community. Thank you for your time and attention. I am Lisa Purdy Allen, Wayne Township Classroom Teachers Association. Tonight, I'm speaking on behalf of the WTC community. First, I want to acknowledge the tremendous responsibility before you. We recognize the decisions you are making at this moment are not easy. We understand the financial challenges our district continues to face as we prepare for the future, and we appreciate the careful consideration you are giving to the possibility of reform with Brenda Brenda. As you weigh this decision and consider that what it will require for the entire Wayne Township community, I ask that you also consider the profound impact your choice will have on students and teachers who are committed to serving. Across our district, educators are facing mounting challenges. As the economic landscape continues to evolve, many teachers are struggling to keep pace with rising cost of living, increased insurance expenses, absence of meaningful salary growth, and the ever-expanding expectations have placed tremendous strain on our professionals to dedicate their lives to educating our children. Teacher morale is being tested in ways we have not experienced before. Every day, our teachers are arriving committed to meeting the academic, social, and emotional needs of our students. They do this because they believe in the mission of public education, because they care deeply about the children sitting in their classrooms. Yet many are increasingly faced with difficult reality and wondering how they will continue to support their own families while continuing to serve others. The decision before you is not simply about budgets, spreadsheets, or financial projections. It's about the people. It's about retaining the highly effective educators who have built relationships with students, invested in our schools, and contributed to the success of Wayne Township. It is about ensuring that our students continue to have access to experienced, dedicated professionals who can help them learn, grow, and thrive. The consequences of this decision will be felt far beyond the walls of this boardroom. It will be felt in every single classroom by every teacher who chooses whether they are staying in our district and by every student who depends on stable, high-quality instruction and support. When we lose educators because they can no longer afford to remain in the profession or our district, our students bear the loss as well. Your consideration of the referendum that could strengthen the district's operating budget and support the retention of quality staff is vitally important. This is an investment not only in teachers, but in the future of every student and family that we serve. On behalf of the Wayne Township Classroom Teachers Association, I thank you for your thoughtful consideration on this matter. We urge you to recognize the urgency of this moment and the lasting impact your decision to move forward with the referendum will have on not only our students, but the classroom teachers who serve. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Lisa Bentley.
My name is Lisa Bentley. Open for West 21st Street, here in Wayne Township. And I have been, and I am still involved, currently in Wayne Township in many capacities, and I wanted to share why I support a referendum for our community. My involvement has included executive director of the Wayne Township Education Foundation from 1997 to 2003. And I just retired in December of 2025, working the past 10 years as the executive director of Indie Gateway, where we have worked to help improve the quality of life for our residents and businesses through affordable housing projects, in conjunction with the Area 31 construction trades students here, quality trails and green spaces, and many other community development projects here in Wayne Township. I previously served on the Area 31 Career Center Leadership Council, helping to connect local businesses to the students of the many programs the Career Center offers. I am a Wayne Township resident, as I mentioned, a property owner, and I'm a taxpayer. My son-in-law is a math teacher at Ben Davis High School, and my daughter was just hired and will begin working as an occupational therapist at Chapel Glen Elementary this fall. Not only are they working in Wayne Township, they are also bought a home in Wayne Township, and I will have a grandson that will soon, very quickly, the first year went really fast, be attending Wayne Township schools. So there's a lot of reasons why I care about the future of Wayne Township. The bottom line is this: is investing in our schools, is investment in our community, as you all know, whether or not you currently have a child in the district. Quality schools help attract quality families and more families, and they feel supported here. We support the students in many ways, funding them the way they need to be funded. You spoke a lot of how it affects the teachers. I won't get into that. It also improves our property values, attracts the skilled workforce, and again, ensures the children have the resources they need to learn. And I do think we need to support this referendum so that we can attract and retain these teachers, keep our schools safe, and of course, maintain basic operations. And I appreciate your time this evening.
Next, we have Mark York.
Good evening, members of the board and folks in the room. I was first introduced to Wayne Township in 1969. I'm not from here, but I came here and I did my final commitment of my educational certificate to do my student teaching at Fulton Junior High. Over here, my wife, Brenda, and I moved into Wayne Township. And, by the way, Dorinda, many of you know, I taught a couple years in Sanders. And then when Chapel Glen was constructed, she was asked to transfer, and she completed her 53 years of teaching at Chapel Glen. And, oh, by the way, we're both retired, so. In the early 1990s, and due to my career path, I soon realized the importance of foundation. And at that time, I led a group and was a founder of the Wayne Township Education Foundation, which I remain on that board today after 35 years. And I think you can all agree the importance of how that helps the educational opportunities for our children and for our teachers as well. With that said, I hope you realize the commitment that the York family has in Wayne Township as well. And we have no children, grandchildren in the schools today. But it's not for our children, it's for everyone's children. And this opportunity to move ahead is important, not only for the children, but it's important for the continued improvement of our lives in the community and the environment in which we live. There's so many other possibilities for us all. So our request is only meeting the needs. I've said in some meetings, we're not talking about wants, we're talking about need. And our children have those needs as well. So with that said, Wayne has pulled this community together for years. I think it's time to now move Wayne forward. Thank you.
Next, we have Joe Quinn Griffin.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Like I mentioned, I'm Joe Quinn Griffin, and I'm a proud 2020 graduate of Ben Davis High School. And during my time as a student, Wayne provided me with a foundation that propelled me forward, whether that was through lessons in show choir, student government, athletics, or support received from the staff members. And today, as a graduate of IU, both in Bloomington and Indianapolis, I'm current employee at the IU Foundation. And as a member of the Wayne Township Education Foundation, I fully support the opportunity to move Wayne forward with the referendum as necessary, not an option. When people ask me what makes Wayne special, I don't just talk about the academics. I talk about the community that invested in me during pivotal times in my life. The challenges our students face today require real, substantial support, and a referendum is our opportunity to ensure that every student walking in the halls of Ben Davis and every other school has access to the same world-class resources that help me launch my career. With community support for a referendum, we are signaling that we believe in our students, our staff, and our community. Together, we can build a legacy of excellence and create a greater opportunity for the next generation of Wayne learners. So I ask that you all trust the magic of new beginnings and please move forward.
Thank you to our speakers. That concludes our public comment for this evening. Moving on to new business and human resources, Mr. Fessler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I'd like to ask Cameron Croft to come to the front of the room and meet Dr. Sutz, please. Cameron Croft began her education career in 2016, teaching third grade at Chapelwood Elementary School. 2021, she moved to an instructional coaching position within the district. During her time as instructional coach, Cameron served as a summer school principal and completed administrative internships at Chapel Glen Elementary and Ben Davis University High School. Ms. Cross serves as a core member of the Chapel Glen leadership team. She also served on Wayne's district equity team and curriculum adoption teams. Cameron designed and facilitated a new teacher mentor mentee program to support staff onboarding and retention. In 2020, Ms. Cross was selected as Chapelwood's Teacher of the Year. She's also been a member of Wayne's Women's Leadership Team and a new teacher mentor leadership team co-leader. Ms. Cross holds a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education from Ball State University and a Master's of Arts degree in Education Administration and Supervision, also from Ball State. Please join me in welcoming the new assistant principal of Chapelwood Elementary, Cameron Cross.
Amber, did we see you rock spread?
Tell us who's here with.
My partner Chris and our son Zaire. I have best friends, my coaching team over there, and my new Chapel family.
Chapel Boy, take this fan. I want to see it.
We're gonna give you some homework.
Here's your SSJ, with some reading material, that be very helpful. I want to officially welcome you to this. And is there anything you'd like to say to me?
At the time, I would like to thank you.
And continue.
Next, I'd invite Ms. Erica Gray to come to the front. Erica Gray began her education career in 2006 in the Spencer Owen Community School District. In 2009, she joined Wayne Township, teaching at Garden City Elementary. In 2020, Erica moved to the social and emotional coach position. She served in that coaching role until 2024, when she began teaching special education at Rhodes Elementary. During her career in Wayne, Erica served as a summer school principal and completed administrative internships at Chapel Hill 7th and 8th Grade Center and Ben Davis 9th Grade Center. Ms. Gray serves as a GCL instructor for new teachers. She's a member of the Wayne Township Human Relations Advisory Committee and a leader on the Rhodes Global Connections Committee. In 2019, Ms. Gray was named the Garden City Teacher of the Year. She has twice been named a Ben Davis High School Top 30 Educator. Ms. Gray holds a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education from Indiana University Bloomington and a Master's of Arts degree in education leadership and supervision from Ball State University. Please welcome the principal of Roby Elementary, Erica Gray.
Thank you, Roby. Hi. My husband Greg is here. My oldest daughter Amara, my youngest daughter Alexandria, my youngest son Greg, my mother-in-law, several friends here, and then my new Roby family. We love that. You too have an aspect. To you, and I also want to say welcome to the team officially with a smile right. Anything you'd like to say to them? Thank you so much for the opportunity. To the space, I've been waiting for quite a while and held in several different positions, so I'm excited for the next move of my career, and I'm excited about being a Roby here. Yeah.
President, I would request a recommendation to approve Cameron Cross and Eric Gray. If I need
I move for, Erica Gray and Cameron Cross to serve was also Erica Gray as the new assistant principal of Roby Elementary and Cameron Cross as the new assistant principal at Chapel Wood Elementary.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Human Resources Report, A3 is approved. Thank you, Mr. Fessler. Moving on to school board policies, second readings. Mr. Fessler.
Thank you. President, members of the board, the first policy for second reading tonight is A200, responsible use of technology and internet policy. As a reminder, this policy is updated based on House Enrolled Act 104 to allow a parent to increase the strength of a filter to block access to websites on school issued devices. There's a timeline of January 1st, 2027 to implement these additional technology measures. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and respectfully ask for approval of revised school board policy A2.
And approval for A200, responsible use of technology and use of policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion on school board policy A200? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Fessler. Board policy A200 is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, the next policy for second reading is A225, wireless communications device, better known as cell phone ban policy. As a reminder, this policy is updated to include provisions from Senate Enrolled Act 78 that prohibit students from using wireless communication devices during the school day. Very limited exceptions, and the school day is defined as the entirety of the time a student is present on school property for student instructional day. I'd like to answer any questions you may have and ask for approval of revised school board policy A225.
I move for approval. I move for approval of school board policy A225, wireless communication device policy.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Fessler. Board policy A225 is approved.
The board next policy is C700, student attendance, academic engagement, and fluency prevention policy. This had one small edit, and that was that this updates excused absences related to active duty service and participation in civil therapy. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Respectfully ask for your approval. School board policy C700.
That we approve C700 student academic engagement and truancy prevention policy.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Fessler. Board policy C700 is approved.
President, members of the board, the last policy for second reading is F225, purchasing procedures and capital assets. You've seen this one a lot back and forth, and the addition to this policy prohibits automatic renewal for contracts, goods and services, and just as another reminder, our business office has been removing those automatic renewals recently as we've been renewing our recent contracts. Happy to answer any questions that you may have about this policy, and respectfully ask for approval for policy F225, purchasing procedures and capital assets.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Fessler. Board policy F225 is approved. Moving on to a financial update, Dr. Samuel.
Very much, Mr. President. Harvey, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the screen.
While we're setting up, those of you who I know you like to go out and celebrate, tonight, this is a great time if you want to leave. You are more than welcome to do that. We do have a great presentation that's about to occur. So we understand.
Don't say that. Whatever you were gonna say, whatever. You're telling. Take me. I'm right. Don't take it personally. Yeah.
Thank you.
Really important information for both our board and our community. Typically as a working session around the table. It's a little different setup, but we wanted to make sure we could accommodate all of our community. Board, Steve and I are very excited to share some information, none of which is new, I would say, but certainly will help us understand why we come to you tonight to talk about moving way forward. This work didn't start tonight. It began in October of 25 when we brought together 300 staff, community, parents, we had students involved, and that was our SCA 1, Senate Roll Act 1 commission. And talked about how this new law was going to impact us financially. At that time, that group's mission was to identify ways in which we could begin our journey of cost-saving measures that would be significant as we were dealing with some serious financial issues as it relates to not only SCA 1 that was coming, but tax cap, which we'll talk a lot more about. The circuit breaker that we've dealt with for a very long time. After that, we, as you may recall, we did a report to the board in February about our finances, the findings of the commission. We then did a video for all of our staff in May to talk about how we had saved money through the school year and how we were going to continue to do that moving into the 26-27 school year. And that leads up to weighing forward tonight. I'd like both the board and our community to know that in this presentation, it is not merely a Google form or Google images. What you're going to see is our children, our staff, our buildings, everything that Wayne stands for is going to be represented in the images that you see in this presentation. With the clicker, our objectives tonight include providing context related to our financial pressures that have brought us to this conversation tonight, sharing information on our financial history, and provide information to the board in consideration of a referendum. And so that leads us to school funding basics again, much of which is not new information. And so we'll start there.
Thank you, Dr. Suggs. Or, and as Dr. Suggs mentioned, this is really the next chapter of the finances. And so a lot of this is not new. My goal this evening is to balance making sure the context is there while not belaboring these points. So if at any point we get outside of those lines and you need to bring it back in with a question to provide a little bit more context. But this is the school funding basics in Indiana. We have the large column on the left, the education fund, that really supplies the revenue for almost everything that we do on, as it says, the education side. Salaries, benefits, supplies, all of those things for teachers or educational staff. On the far right, you can also see the rainy day fund. As we've talked previously, this is not a revenue stream, but really a savings account where we can put money that we've been able to accrue over time. In the middle is really where the conversation lies, and where there has historically been a great deal of pressure on finances of MSD Wayne County. These are all of our property tax funded revenue streams. Our referendum fund, which our most recent referendum we'll talk more about, was passed in 2019. Well, moving to our left, we have the operations fund. That is what is provided as an opportunity in the state of Indiana to cover all the expenses that we don't fit into the education fund that are day-to-day recurring expenses. Staff members that are not teachers or not instructional staff. And then we have our debt service fund that is exclusively for paying off debt. And it's always important when we think about school finance in Indiana to talk about debt service in the appropriate lens. When we think about projects like the renovation of the front of Ben Davis High School to improve safety at that facility, we use our debt service fund. However, it's key to remember that those funds can't be used for salary. They must be used on capital improvements throughout the district. And so it is always one of those things that we try to revisit, of course, in conversations with the board, but of course, also in conversation with the community. So how do we spend our funds? Again, this is not a new slide, not a new image. And without belaboring the point, it really speaks for itself. Spend our money on people. Spend our money on salary and benefits. That includes teachers, bus drivers, custodians, everyone who works for the MSD of Wayne Township. We have worked hard to become as efficient as we possibly can with the other 15.5%, 14.5% of our budget. But as you can imagine, there's just not that much there. Almost all of what we pay, we have great people working with our children in supporting the school.
And that leads us to our financial history that I alluded to. That's going to take us back to 2008, but will really provide the foundation as to what is leading us to this conversation about a referendum.
So when we think about school finance, especially property tax funding in the state of Indiana, over the next 30 to 40 minutes, you're going to hear terms like property tax caps and circuit breaker and certified levy and net levy and assessed value, terms that we all use on a daily basis. You're like me. But I'm going to do my best to ground those terms and definitions so that we know we're all working with the same thing. And this is really the first part of that. In 2008, the legislature passed property tax caps. In 2010, the residents of Indiana enshrined that as an amendment to our Constitution. What came with those with MSD Wayne Township were significant financial pressures in the form of circuit breaker. Circuit breaker is property taxes that are levied by a municipality that are not collected by that entity. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that works and why that happens. But it is key to understanding how those impact MSD of Wayne Township. In Indiana, those property tax cap or circuit breaker are capped at 1% for residential homesteads, 2% for farmland and non-residential homesteads, which would be rental homes, assisted living apartments, those types of things, and then a 3% cap on business and commercial property. And so if in any given municipality in the state, the property taxes that are levied by all of the units that have that authority go above that percentage of the assessed value of a particular property, those property taxes are not collected. and then as a result, not distributed to those municipalities, school districts. Et cetera. So that's the primer on circuit breaker.
In 2015, our community supported a referendum as tax caps became really impactful in how we were operating the district. And again, in 2019, we were so grateful to our community. We are grateful to our community, supporting a second referendum with a total of 70 cents with both referendums together, per $100 of assessed value. In 2023 or 2015 referendum expired, and we had the option to ask our community to continue that support. We chose not to. At that time, our finances were in a really good place in that we had just come out of COVID. We had ESSER dollars that helped us with our operations of the district. It helped us finance the needs of our students who were coming out of COVID and didn't have the supports that they were accustomed to when they were in the schoolhouse. And as a result of that, we were able to save dollars, and we had an account that allowed us to say to our community, we promised we would not ask for more than what we need. And at this time, we're not going to ask you to renew it. And so for that reason, we let the 2015 referendum lapse, and the community continued the support of the 2019 referendum.
So since 2023, quite a bit has changed. And almost all of it is related to Senate Enrollment Act 1. I want to talk about some of that as it leads into the next part of this discussion. As you know, Senate Enrollment Act 1 was passed in 2024, and the impact then begins to roll on in 2025 to 2031. We've given lots of presentations about how that works. We'll talk just a little bit about that later on in the presentation as well. But for our purposes at this point, one of the other key components in Senate Enrollment Act 1 is it shifts when schools can ask the community for support via a referendum. Prior to Senate Enrollment Act 1, schools could put a referendum question on the ballot in a spring or fall election. Schools could even pay to hold their own election and place a referendum question on the ballot. Senate Enrollment Act 1 changed all of that. Schools are now only allowed to place a referendum question on the ballot in an even year, so 26 or 28 and on into the future, in the general election, so in November. So our ability to do that in the spring, which is what the MSD Wayne Township had done previously, was eliminated with Senate Enrollment Act 1, putting the district in a little bit of a precarious position with a referendum that was set to expire at the end of 2027. Really left the district, as we think about our finances, with engaging this conversation now in 2026, or deciding that we potentially wait until 2028.
As we move into the conversation about our financial impact and the need for a referendum, you're going to hear words like worst, last, negative impact. I want to be clear that we're speaking about the impacts and our financial standards. That does not reflect our community, which is the best. And so we want to be clear that as we have this conversation for the next few minutes, that we are talking about the impact of both tax caps and SCA 1 and how it's going to impact our finances in the future.
So when we think about circuit breaker, we just looked at when that became a law in 2008 and then the Constitution of 2000. So the impact of circuit breaker is not new to the MSD Wayne Township. But in order to really center this conversation, we want to begin looking at how the circuit breaker impacted our operations fund in 2025. And so you can see at the top, in 2025, our operations fund certified levy was 25.4 million. That is how much we asked for from the state of Indiana, the Department of Local Government Finance, in our budget. We levied for $25.4 million. When our 1782 count came back from the DLGF, due to circuit breaker, we had $21.3 million that were uncollected, receiving only $4.1 million as our net levy. So as we move through this conversation, net levy is always referring to the dollars that we did receive. Certified levy is. So for the MSD Wayne Township, we received $4.1 million. We did not receive 21.3, putting us in a very difficult position of trying to run a district with 15,000 students with just $4.1 million in our operation. So what are we expected to cover in our operations fund? This is a long, but not quite comprehensive, but captured all the big rocks of what schools have to pay for from their operations fund. We have to pay for transportation. Every bus driver, all of our mechanics, all of our parts, all of our fuel paid for from our operations. We have to pay for student safety, all of our school police officers, our security systems that keep our students safe on a daily basis. Our custodial services, the custodians that maintain our facilities and keep them ready for our students to learn, our maintenance team, our grounds team, all the cleaning supplies that they utilize in order to keep those areas clean and safe for students. All of our utilities, all of our technology, not only the people who support those devices, but the devices themselves. The infrastructure behind that, the servers, the internet, and then of course, another big bucket is our property casualty. So I don't think I need to spend a lot of time, but even that adds up to a lot more than $4.1 million. And that is what has driven the need for the MSD Wayne Township to ask the community for support via a referendum. So this is a really powerful slide that I will let everybody take in for just a moment here, but this represents the history of circuit breaker at the MSD of Wayne Township. From 2014 through 2025, in the interest of keeping it nice and visible on one slide, we didn't go any deeper than this. But over the last 12 years, what you see on the screen here is $184.5 million that the MSD Wayne Township was not able to collect to support our students in the operation. That is a staggering amount of money that we have not been able to utilize. And we are incredibly thankful for the support of our community, 2015 referendum and the 2019 referendum, that has allowed us to ensure not only the operation of our facilities, but the opportunities for our students across our district. I'd also note that kind of stair step that you see going up from 2019, obviously that creates additional pressure when we go from 12.3 million, which is a really big number, to 21.3 million, which is an even bigger. So once again, a graph that I believe speaks for itself. What this is showing is every school district in the state of Indiana has a bar on this graph. Far left, you can see your district's up over $5,000 per student in their operations fund. And if you squint and look really closely on the right, you can see the MSD of Wayne Township, 289 out of 290 districts in the state of Indiana on a per student operations fund collection of $280 per student. You can see in the middle, or not quite the middle, this is skewed a little bit to the right, the state average of $1,923. So there are lots of communities in the state of Indiana who do collect enough money to support their operations of the district with their operations fund tax levy. That's not the case for the MSD of Wayne Township. And this slide, perhaps better than any other, illustrates the need for a referendum going back through 2015 and just how steep of a mountain we have to climb in order to make this work. And again, so thankful for the support of our community and our previous veteran. I'd also note, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but just getting us to the state average, or a little bit over, at $2,000 per student represents $25.5 million that we would be collecting. So, yeah, as we move through this conversation, more to come on those pieces. Just a little bit of additional context. This shows the operations fund collection per student, but it really drills down to the 20 largest school districts in the state of Indiana. I'm not going to read all the names. You can kind of parse your way through that. It's all the districts that you would expect. Many are local peers, and others are peers across the state of Indiana. But again, it outlines, in this instance, in a not so great way, what makes Wayne different. And in this instance, it is that we're climbing a mountain of funding imbalance that is really difficult to overcome.
You know, this slide is interesting, because it says the top, right, in both percentage and total dollars. Really what this means is, we are in the top 5 school districts by percent of impact of our circuit breaker. We rank 3rd worst in the state. And in terms of the dollars that we collect, 2nd worst in the state. I think it's important to point out that we as a district have worked really hard despite circuit breaker. Where we rank is not new. That has been historically where we sit. And yet we have been able to find ways to have cost savings, continue to support teachers, continue to support extracurriculars for our students, and all the supports they need to be successful. And we haven't even begun to talk about what SCA 1 will then do. But important to know that fiscally, we've worked really hard to make sure that we're doing all we can to support the district and the work of our teachers and the learning of our students.
So you might be asking yourself, why the tax caps hit the MSD of Wayne Township so hard? And without going into the depths of school finance, it really comes down to the property tax funding mechanism in the state of Indiana simply don't work for our community and for the MSD of Wayne Township. Of course, every community is unique, and in this instance, what we're talking about really is tax base of a given community. One of the important factors is the percentage of properties within a municipality that are residential or business or apartment rental properties, etc. As we looked at those property tax caps, when you have a highly residential municipality, your tax cap is mostly set at 1%. Whereas if you have a higher percentage of 2%, 3% properties, your ability to collect more taxes from those businesses or agricultural land rentals raises that floor because you can tax those properties at 2 and 3%. In the MSD of Wayne Township, we are almost exclusive, almost exclusive. We are over 90% residential. And 89% of those homes are at the cap, meaning because of the taxes that are levied across that municipality, some from MSD Wayne Township, others from the city of Indianapolis. The list goes on of overlapping taxing units. They reach that cap. And another way that we can look at this is, at the end of the day, it comes down to a little bit of net assessed value per student. We've talked previously, we'll go through the quick version here. Net assessed value is important for property tax. The equation for generating revenue from property taxes is tax rate times net assessed value equals a dollar amount. And so if you have less net assessed value per student, you have less ability to collect funds. And this is certainly not an indictment of any community. It just is. we are very proud of our community, as are every other school on this district. But the reality, on this slide, I should say, the reality is we simply can't generate the same dollars to support our schools and our students that the other schools who are left on this graph can. Fortunately, our peers in Beech Grove are in a very similar situation. It's a small community, mostly residential, low net assessed value per student.
As mentioned earlier, we talked a lot about, we drilled into tax caps, because even as we moved into the conversation about SCA one, tax caps don't go away. This is in addition to.
So again, not a new conversation, and I don't want to beat a drum that we've already played quite a bit, but this brings us back to that conversation we just had about net assessed value. And the easy way to think about Senate Enrolled Act 1 is it is designed to decrease the net assessed value of homes, businesses, and agricultural apartments, all the properties in Indiana, and therefore reduce their property tax. So that is certainly something that I think everyone supports, reduce property taxes. This slide, though, represents what that means as far as net assessed value in MSD of Wayne Township. Projections with our partners at Policy Analytics indicate that we're going to be on a downward trend for the next 5 years when it comes to net assessed value. And when we think about that equation we just talked about of tax rate times net assessed value equals property tax revenue, that means that that equation starts to have a downward trend, less dollars that are possible to collect. And so in order to really think about this, this slide helps us. Now I want to stress, this is a hypothetical. This is using the net assessed value of MSD Wayne Township and looking at a referendum that is at a rate of 35 cents, which just happens to be what our current referendum is. But it serves the purpose of showing this downward trend that I just talked about here. That's one of the important factors. Less real dollars being collected is, of course, a significant piece to our financial puzzle. We worked really hard, and Dr. Suggs alluded to this, to project out and plan our financial picture. And when we do that, we make projections and we make assumptions. We count on historical trends with net assessed value continuing. We use our partners at Policy Analytics who are experts in that, and other partners to help us. But this other line that does show an upward trend represents what we expected to happen before Senate Enrolled Act 1 was a thing. You can see that not only, obviously, we have the downward trend, less money, but when you think of it in terms of what we were planning for versus what we have, then you get the picture for why the Senate Enrolled Act 1 Commission is so important and why beginning to find cost savings was a critical piece of the puzzle. I hope this helps kind of explain what the mechanisms are in Senate Enrolled Act 1, how they really impact finances. I would note that this also plays out in our operations fund. It's also property tax funded. This downward trend is also present in that fund as well, along with the tax credits, the $300 tax credit impact hitting that fund on top of all that, to the tune of about $1.4 million each.
With the help of your commission, we identified $11 million in savings that we could reasonably implement right away leading into the 26-27 school year. That included eliminating 108 positions, and that includes administrative, certified, and classified positions. We negotiated no raises for the 25-26 school year. And I just want to say publicly that it was a hard road, but we appreciated CTA and the membership and all teachers working with us through that really hard process, but ultimately helping us move our district forward until we could find a solution. So again, thank you. And we renegotiated vendor contracts. We implemented black and white printing, reduced and eliminated overtime, modified our trash pickup schedule, implemented energy savings, centralized some processes, including enrollment, and now our treasury, extended curricular material usage, and then responded to enrollment decline.
So this brings us to the total support that we've asked for from our community in the form of tax rates and what that has looked like over the last 10 years. And so in the face of the circuit breaker and now Senate Enrolled Act 1, we've still been working hard behind the scenes to reduce our tax rate that we are asking our community and the homeowners to pay. So you can see the first dip here from 22 to 23 is the 2015 referendum dropping off. And then you can see this the orange slides here, or bars, are representing what the tax rate would have been if that referendum continued. Finally, then from 25 to 26, we were able to realize about 20 more cents in reduction of our tax rate through a reduction in our debt service rate, which is also, we hope, benefited tax rate. But we focus on this just to say, within all of those other challenges, we have been working hard to reduce these tax rates over time.
In essence, board, we're really asking. We're asking, sorry, the board to support our continued programs and all that we have to offer our students. There's a reason they call us giants. 15,000 students, 22 schools and programs, one community. From Wayne Township Preschool, Indiana's highest standard of early childhood education, to our nation's top early college high school, right here at Ben Davis University. And Indiana's first public online school achieved virtual, a pioneer since 2011. Wayne Township has a pack for every student, millions in scholarships, thousands of dual credits earned, and 99% of Ben Davis University seniors finish high school with a degree in hand. 31 state championships, award-winning arts, JROTC, over 100 clubs, and a Purple Star district because we honor every family we serve. Our giant food pantry, parent liaison, Wayne Township Adult Education, the largest adult education program in the state, because great schools show up for the whole community. Once a giant, always a giant. Our Ben Davis Alumni Nation spans generations, and they keep coming back to give back. More than 1,000 volunteers, strong community partnership. This is what great looks like. I am Wayne.
I am Wayne.
I want you Wayne.
He Wayne.
Ana Wayne. Anna Wayne.
I am Wayne.
What's the Wayne?
I am Wayne.
Je suis Wayne.
Women, Wayne.
I am Wayne. You are Wayne. We are Wayne. Great school, great community.
I'm restarting the video. Anybody knows, tell me. It's impossible. I'm convinced.
So tonight's board, we go to the next slide. We are asking for you to consider tonight a replacement referendum. And what I mean by that, our current referendum, our 2019 referendum will end in 2027. What we're asking for your consideration is replacing that. Did you approve a resolution tonight and our board support that referendum? Then we would drop the 2019 referendum that ends in 2027 and begin the new one. So that's what I mean by replacement. I want to read the question aloud because this is really, really important. This is what our community is going to see in the ballot box. Shall the Metropolitan School District of Wayne Township increase property taxes paid to the school district for no more than 8 years for the purpose of funding the Wayne Forward initiative to sustain educational and operational stability in response to reductions in property tax revenue, including recruiting and retaining classroom teachers, funding student safety and school security, and maintaining daily educational operations by imposing a property tax rate that does not exceed 70 cents and results in a maximum annual amount that does not exceed $41,019,552. If this referendum, operating referendum public question is approved by the voters for a median residence of $200,000, the property's annual property tax bill would increase by $605 per year. The most recent operating referendum public question proposed by the school district was held in 2019 and passed. When I read those numbers out loud, you understand why it's really important to understand what that means. When someone sees my taxes are going to increase by $605. So we're going to give you some context to that. We're going to drill down into both the 70 cents, $605, and the 41 million.
So let's start with some more of the changes that Senate Enrolled Act 1 provided us, and that is the requirement that both a rate and a maximum levy be included in ballot questions. So as you saw on the previous slide, referendum runs for 8 years. And so in essence, what Senate Enrolled Act 1 requires the school district to do is to make a projection 8 years out. Think about multiple things. How much money are we going to need? What is the net assessed value of our school district likely to be at that time? And what rate might generate the dollars based on that net assessed value that will provide us what we need to educate our students and run our schools? I don't know about you, but if I think back 8 years, it takes me about 5 minutes to orient myself with what was going on. Lots of things change over 8 years. Point being, this is a really difficult exercise to accomplish. And I think what we leaned into with this is trying to be as transparent as we possibly can. And the $41,019,552 really represents what we believe 70 cents would generate in the most positive economic climate in the state and country over the next 8 years. So we didn't want to pull any punches with our community. If we have the greatest economy you can imagine for the next 8 years, that's the most we could possibly ask for. Can't exceed that. Over the next few slides, we're going to talk about that being the max, but not necessarily what we think we need as a community for, both in the short run and the long. You think of this?
Now, you go ahead to the next slide. I just want to, he's pretty much said everything on the slide. Just want to be clear that the state is requiring us to ask for whatever we think that max would be. And we did that by working with policy analytics, doing our projections, and as he said, hoping for the best economic situation that we could be in 8 years from now. What I will also reiterate is that that's not necessarily what we would ask for.
I'll just, we got things. I'll just put on the next slide. So, and just reiterate too from the wonderful video that highlights the program that what we are talking about over the next few slides is identifying how we can continue the program and services that have served our community well and provided pathways to success for all students. All right, so we are headed to the most complex pieces of this presentation, and I want to give them their due diligence and explanation. Long-term financial planning is grounded in inputs and assumptions, and so we have to start with what are the assumptions built in to be the long-term 8-year financial projection. So you can see where we begin here in 2026, but what we're looking at is the ending cash flow projection, meaning what is our cash balance at the conclusion of these calendar years? So let's start with that. You can see kind of what those numbers are. What we are factoring in for annual expenditure modifications is a 3% salary increase as our goal for our employees, but we're also factoring in $7 million worth of reductions beginning for the 26-27 school year as those cost savings measures that Dr. Stark outlined just a few slides ago. The other thing that I would highlight is this line that is 0. So anything below that means we ran out of money. We talked in the spring during the SEA1 commission that our goal is to stay here at $30 million or above. That's based on both guidelines from the Government Finance Officers Association, recommendation to have at least 2 months worth of expenses on hand, and our internal comfort so that we have a cushion in the case of economic downturns or legislative changes, similar to what we're navigating right now with Senate Enroll Act 1.
Steve, I want to insert something that is really, really important at this point, I think, to point out to the board and our community that as you look at these projections, and he's going to explain that if we got no renewal, we lined up, you can just see that without even seeing the numbers, how quickly we get past the 0. That we are audited every year. We go before the Standards and Poor's. They analyze how we spend our dollars. We go through all of our financial documents. And despite the fact that we've been dealing since 2008 with significant cuts to our operations, we have a rating of A+. And I think that's important for everyone to understand. And feel confidence in our financial stewardship.
So let's start to pick this apart. You can obviously see gaps beginning to form in these lines, but I want to begin at the top. That represents a 70-cent rate, what we had when the community supported 2 separate referendums. When we look at that line, it's pretty clear. You can see an upward trend, meaning we are building cash balance in that scenario. We're not here tonight to advocate that we should ask the community to help us build our cash balance, as we talked about on the previous slide. We're here tonight to talk about our community, helping us sustain the programs and resources that our community expects and has enjoyed over the last 15 years. So then we switch to look at the bottom. As Dr. Suggs mentioned, this blue line is no referendum. That puts us running out of money sometime in 2028. The line above there is a 35-cent referendum rate. Has us running out of money sometime in 2030. So neither of those scenarios are able to meet our needs as a district as we think about that. Brings us to these 2 lines in the middle. They're connected here. They grow apart, and we'll talk more about why that is, but they represent a referendum rate of 60 cents and how that impacts our district as we move forward. The difference between the green line and the red line is a 4% levy increase, and without stealing any thunder from the rest of this slide, we're going to talk about that more. But what we know is that the 60-cent rate allows us to live up to our commitment to the community to both only ask for what we need and provide the resources and programs that they've come to expect from us.
Steve, I want to also point out and say again and just reiterate, this ask from our community is not just an ask. It also includes our continued work and additional $7 million in reductions at the same time.
So you can see we're still trending down. This absolutely includes continued hard work to find efficiencies. In short, one way to think about this slide is that the decision to let the 2015 referendum expire was correct. It was sound financially, and it was the right move for our community. But coupled with the legislative changes from Senate Enrolled Act 1, 35 cents is no longer enough to provide the school district that our community has come to expect. The result is our recommendation to increase the referendum rate to 6. This slide drills down into a little bit more detail, but it's important to baseline again what we are looking at. This is revenue. So this slide shows only the projected revenue from referendum rates, which is obviously a critical data point for understanding the impact of the referendum on our community and our school district, as they represent the dollars that would be generated at a given rate. These values are what drove the previous slide. So when you think about the cash balance growing at 70 cents, that was from that top line there. When you think about the cash balance declining at the bottom, that is due to the revenue highlighted in that orange line. One thing I also want to point out, which is critical to the impact of Senate Enrolled Act 1, is this downward trend on the line. That means, like we talked about earlier, net assessed value is going down. As a result, the collection of property taxes is also declining. Again, like we looked at in that slide, what we're used to is this type of slope here. After 2031, the impact of Senate Enrolled Act 1 stops, and we go back to what we would consider normal historic trends with regard to the growth of assessed value, which is what we base most of our projections on until Senate Enrolled Act 1 hit. So this green line, let's talk a little bit more. And both of these lines begin at 60 cents at $29 million. The green line grows slightly over 4 years and then eventually connects with the other line. That represents a growth in the levy of 4%. So 4% growth on 29 million gets us to 30.1. 4% growth on 30.1 gets us to 31.3. 4% growth on 31.3 gets us to 32.1, where we then hit that max rate of 70 cents, and it continues. And so we present that as another option, and we came up with 4% because that is what we've been operating under from Indiana law over the last few years. We cannot increase our operations fund more than 4%. It's capped at that 4% based on what is called the MLGQ, maximum levy growth quotient. Again, factors of how that is calculated. Happy to sit down with anybody who wants details on that, but that's where we got that. What that does is it prevents rapid growth in the levy that we're asking our community for, and it really allows us to predict at a much higher level what that's going to look like. But again, we have that clear gap in revenue here between 26 and 27. That obviously represents an increase, and it is related to the impacts of Senate Enrolled Act 1 on our projections, the continued impact of circuit breaker that has continued to climb. And then, as we mentioned on the previous slide, finding the middle ground between previous referendum rate of 70 cents and what we need today in order to provide programs and research community. All right, I think maybe our last graph of the day here, but probably the most important one because this is where the rubber hits the road. We are asking our community members to support our school with real dollars. This slide represents the impact to the median taxpayer in the MSD of Wayne Township at the various rates. So I draw your attention to that median homestead value being $200,000 for the purposes of our referendum ballot question. Senate Enrolled Act 1 also changed that. So it used to be that you would pull the actual median home value in your district, and there was a slight rounding. Senate Enrolled Act 1 changed that to all districts have to round to the nearest $50,000 up. So this means that our median home value is somewhere between 150 and 200,000, causing us to round up 200,000 for that median impact. The two important things to look at, I would say, beginning at the top, are what that 70-cent rate that we used to have would have cost a median taxpayer at $605, or approximately 87 more than a 60-cent rate. Conversely, we know that the current rate our taxpayers saw on their bills is this 35-cent rate, 319. And we also can see very clearly that that represents an increase of $199 from tax 26 to tax 27.
That's a great place to stop. We'll go back to the question that reads that $605 that your taxes will increase. We just heard Steve's explanation. Currently, if your home is worth $200,000, that taxpayer's paying $319. And the increase above that is $199. They're not gonna see that ballot box. And so therein lies the work. Not only the board, but of our community to help everyone understand what it really means to that.
The next resource that we wanted to highlight that really drills down to what Dr. Suggs mentioned there is a resource that our community would have access to if the board chooses to move forward with a ballot question for a referendum. And it is a referendum liability calculator. And so it is programmed here with a 1% cap property, so a residential property, at that median value of 200,000 that is represented or would be represented potentially on a ballot question. So if we click calculate estimated liability, to Dr. Suggs' point, it goes into much more detail in helping a local taxpayer understand what this impact is and how it shifts from 27 and what that changes from 26 to 27. So these two boxes here are representing the first full year, the annual amount at 60 cents, $518.40, or $43.20 a month. On the right, we've highlighted with this calculator the impact change from 26 to 27, $199.20 or $16.60 per month for the median taxpayer in our township. Below here, it gets into more detail showing increased potential liabilities into the future. It is factoring in a rise in home values so that we are as transparent as we can possibly be with our community. And then if you really want to nerd out on Senate Enrolled Act 1, this is really what's happening. The homestead deduction goes down to zero. The supplemental deduction increases until it is 2/3 of the home value. And so it's again, trying to provide the highest level of transparency in how these calculations were made and taking into account Indiana law as it pertains to property.
Or what we see here, another way of looking at this, while the ballot question says 600, you're going to increase by $605, this calculator really gives the true picture of what they're committing to above the current referendum that our community is already supporting. And so you see that this calculator is going to be key in helping everyone understand what the true commitment is, because when you go to the ballot box, it's not going to read this way. The other thing is that this is based on 60 cents. The maximum that we ever can go, and we're asking our community to support, is 70 cents. That red line we've been pointing out, we said that would stabilize us. It will help us keep programs in place. It will only ask for what we need, and that's where we're going to start, at the 60 cents. So that $199.20 difference represents the rate at 60 cents. 25 cents above the 35 our community already supports. Any questions about any of that? Yes.
Since we're talking to the community about that, the difference between 60 cents and 70 cents, how do you see, how do we communicate that we can go up to 70 cents? But trust us, we're only gonna do 60 cents. I mean, I don't know. If you could.
So it was based on projections, right, that there would be an increase 4% in levy every year. We have a history of only asking from our community what we need. I think we superbly demonstrated that when we did not come back to the community and we let the 2015 referendum go away. The other piece of this is that every year there is a budget process, and board, you are intimately involved in that process. And decisions about what we will ask from our community and the rationale behind that is a yearly activity. And so those decisions will be made based on what we need to run programs, continue what we do. Because we can ask for 70, doesn't mean we will. It'll be discovered through the budget process. Steve, did you want to add anything?
The budget process and exactly where I was. Okay. So in closing for this section here, just when we think about that 60-cent rate, we know that is an increase from 26 to 27 for taxpayers and homeowners in MSD Wayne Township. But I do want to revisit, even with that increase from 26 to 27 at that 60-cent rate, the projected tax rate, if we just apply that 60 cents onto what our debt service and operations rate are currently, still allows us to have a 12.3% lower total tax rate than we did in 2022. Getting back to that slide, just talking about how we have worked hard to reduce that tax rate over the last 5 to 6 years. We do obviously understand that it's an increase year over year, but if we look at a little bit longer timeline, it does still represent a reduction.
And so I have been asked this question a lot, that, what would happen if we don't run a referendum or a referendum was not successful? We would be looking in the 27-28 school year at reducing $20 million. That is a big number. And as you know, many of you participated in the SCA 1 commission work. There were things that were identified that would fundamentally change the way we deliver services in Wayne Township. It will hit every part of our district. I've also had people ask, well, does that mean you'll close this school down? You'll stop this program? They want me to name it. And that's really hard to name, because when I say 20 million is going to change what we do, it'll hit every part of our district. If we're to come to that, that means we would come back together as a commission and we would make really hard decisions. As your superintendent and on behalf of the board, our work here is about teaching and learning. And despite what we're talking about tonight, we want that to continue to be the focus. Right? Even though we're talking about a referendum campaign, and that will be really hard work. Teaching and learning is what we do. What we don't want is people scared that they're about to lose their job, or the beloved program that we've had for many years is going away. We want to be able to provide focus and support during this difficult time that we're facing, but being very transparent that it would be a really hard time if we could not pass. And with the current referendum ending in 2027, our next opportunity to come back to our community would be in 2028. And so decisions will still be really hard. We still would be looking at a $20 million deficit, and then considering another piece. So board, tonight, we're asking for your consideration to move Wayne forward, continue the programs and services for our children, pathways for success. Should you approve a resolution to move forward with the referendum, then the choice will lie with our. We do not take lightly that our community has supported us in the past, and we don't take for granted that moving forward, they will continue to do that in the same way. But what I will say is that we believe in our children and we do believe in our community. So with that, board, that concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Suggs. Board, we'll move on to new business item D. Dr. Samuel or Dr. Suggs to approve referendum tax levy resolution.
So board, I would ask at this time that you consider approval of the resolution before you to consider referendum. Be voted on by our community November 3rd.
Referendum tax levy resolution.
Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have any comment or discussion? None, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Dr. Suggs. The referendum tax levy resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Board, before we dismiss to the Ed Center to have our elementary and secondary presentations, reminder, upon the final station, we do need to reconvene in the board meeting for some closing statements and adjournment. It is currently 7:59. Dr. Suggs, are we okay to start first stations at 8:05?
Just a minute,
Absolutely.
to make a couple of comments. I want to thank everyone who is here tonight. Support of our teachers that are here, our community engagement committee was present. Those of you who spoke tonight so eloquently about our community, about the education we provide for our students. We really appreciate your time, your efforts, and your support. So I want to say that publicly. We are going to move into our annual presentation. Those of you who came tonight, we appreciate it. You are welcome to leave. Thank you so much. Thank you.